Even before I said hello or how are you, auntie, the next thing that came out from her mouth was a string of vulgarities. Yeah.
Dementia affects 1 in 10 Singaporeans aged above 60 and half of those over 85. Today we'll be speaking to Padma from Montfort Care, and she'll be sharing with us some of her experiences and stories from working with seniors with dementia and giving some caregiver tips.
Hi, my name is Padma. I'm a senior social worker with Montfort Care. My work revolves around elderly, so I'm from the centre, Good Life Central. A lot of our programs are based in the community, so we do mainly a lot of outreach as well as a holistic assessment by doing home visits to the families.
So what activities do you do with the people with dementia, and how do you engage them?
Through our assessment, we will try to figure out what are some of the possible activities that can be done and how do we then tweak the activities so that the person living with dementia can have meaningful engagement. It can be very simple activities such as teaching them, for example, how to colour. It really depends. For someone with early onset of dementia, it can be very easy. They don't really need much guidance or supervision. They can do it by themselves. But for someone who is in the moderate stage of dementia, they may require guidance. So it really depends on the activities, because many a times we try to customize the activities based on their interests or their hobby or whatever past experience that they have.
What are some tips you have for mostly new caregivers who don't really know how to deal with persons with dementia?
One very important tip is, of course, not only to equip yourself with the knowledge on what really is dementia, and sometimes don't be afraid to ask for help. It's actually a very lonely journey, and this can have an impact on your own personal mental health or emotional health. While you care for someone, it's also important to care for yourself. If you find it's a bit hard, you can always look for social service agency that specializes in elder care, for example, like Good Life.
What are some common difficulties faced as a caregiver, and how do you overcome them?
I think sometimes it's important to communicate. It's not uncommon for a person living with dementia to be very paranoid, and they can accuse the domestic helper that, hey, you stole my money, or hey, you stole my clothes. You know, it's as a caregiver, it's just good to just listen to the person living with dementia on what are her feedback, and at the same time also to check in with the domestic helper. Maybe if this caregiver is new, it's a brand new face, they're like, what's a stranger doing living in my house? You've been telling or introducing this caregiver for the last 2 weeks, but she just can't remember. It's important to communicate and really try to work in partnership. It's really not easy caring for someone living with dementia, especially if you are living with this person 24 hours and this person is always telling you, oh, you stole my things, oh, you hit me, but actually I never hit you, you know. Yeah, so sometimes it's just important to take it with a pinch of salt about what they say, but always verify. The person who has dementia accuse someone of hitting her. Sometimes it would be good to, just check, are there any bruising on the arms or on the body? For a person living with dementia, they may need a much longer time, maybe to even shower. Maybe the person have entered the toilet, maybe remove the t-shirt and then forgot, hey, actually the reason why I entered the toilet I forgot already. So many a times someone needs to be there to kind of supervise or to assist or to guide them. But it's a tricky situation. As an adult, you're like, hey, why must follow me into the toilet? So weird. Are you invading my privacy? They could have such feelings, but they may not be able to express. Yeah. One tip is to really reassure the elderly and just let them know that I'm here, it's time to shower. You need to remove this clothing so it doesn't get wet. Just removing the clothes. This could be a good maybe 20 minutes to half an hour. I think many of them struggle with when they use the shower head on the elderly may hit them or may just push them. It's the elderly may have difficulty articulating why I don't want the shower head, why I don't want to shower. Because sometimes even for us it's quite normal, having a shower head and shower, we are very used to the kind of sensation. But for them, as the disease progress, their memories actually regress. It could be that they're very sensitive to touch. So just the impact of the water pressure can be very painful for them, but they cannot say this is very uncomfortable or it hurts. What they do know is they know it doesn't sit right with them, and because they cannot say and they cannot tell you, so they may behave in an aggressive manner. They may refuse you. They may refuse through either hitting you, pushing you. We try to give suggestions. For example, is it really necessary for him to take a shower every day? If let's say this elderly is usually home, can showering every day be reduced to once every 2 days or once every 3 days? Maybe using a pail of water may help. If that doesn't work, it could even be, for example, using a damp cloth, just wiping them instead, so that their body doesn't go through a trigger.
So can you share with us a challenging case and how do you cope with it?
I actually went to do a home visit to this really old elderly, I think about 90 plus. And what really struck me was, even before I said hello or how are you auntie or ama, the next thing that came out from her mouth was a string of vulgarities. Yeah, I think that really left a very deep impression on me, because I don't think hello is a very provoking term, or my presence is a very provoking term. But I think it really left a very deep impression because it made me realize that this is not normal behavior. This behavior is something that can't be controlled. Yeah, and I just can't imagine, what the caregivers or the loved ones, in this case, is her children, have to go through. Yeah, how I really coped with it was not to take it personally. When I spoke to the daughter, she was telling me, my mom last time, she's such a nice lady, she's very thoughtful. She never ever spoken a word of like vulgarity, and it's so sad to see her in this state right now. I think for this case, it's really on how to we work together with the family, to provide a safer environment and a better quality of care, despite, her not being very open. Yeah, in fact, she doesn't even remember that she scolded me after like 10 minutes into the home visit. She just display like a repetitive behavior, like keep asking me, where do I live? It's so late, I must quickly get home. Yeah, so it's quite interesting because we can tell, she have no memory of it, and it doesn't help if I as the worker hold on to that grudge or that negative feeling. Hey, that lady scolded me, made me feel so bad. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I know it doesn't come from her, and I know it is the illness that is affecting her brain that's making her that way. And I think having that realization and coming to terms with it really helps a lot with the work that I do.
Can you share with us more of what your organization does?
For Montfort Care, we are actually a network of programs that aims to empower lives and strengthen communities. We work primarily not only with individuals but with families as well as the community. Through our social service team, we aim to bring forth a community-based approach to help them through this period where they can overcome the transitional challenge that they face.
Can you share more about some specific programs?
So Good Life Centres are our elder care arm. So for Good Life Centres, we look at elderly who are 50 and above. The cases could be maybe person living with dementia or elderly with depression, or could be both. A quite unique program that we have is called YAH. YAH represents Young at Heart, YAH, and it's really a senior college for elderly. We started more than 10 years ago, and this came out from the need that we realized that a lot of seniors were not given the opportunity to have formal education. One of the very popular course is the transformation course, where elderly actually learn more about what aging is, so that they are equipped with a better knowledge, as well as they are also empowered to also give back to the community through volunteerism.
So can you share a word of encouragement with the caregivers watching this video?
You are not alone in this caregiving journey. It's very important to self-care and seek for help. There are times where it can feel very lonely. I think it's important to realize that somewhere deep inside, she or he still exists, even though he may not be able to tell you that he cares for you, or he's thankful, or he or she is thankful towards the care, but your compassion towards the elderly, they can definitely feel it.